Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day, the recitation for the day. Gaudi Cheti Mahalla Pehla, Amrit Kaiya Rahe Sukhali, Baji Eho Sansaro, Lab Lob Much Kood Kamaveh, Bahut Uthave Paro. तू काया मैं रुलदी देखी ज्यों तरे ऊपर छारो सुन सुन सिख हमारी सुकृत कीता रहसी मेरे जियड़े बहुड़ ना आवे वारी रहाओ हाँ तुझे आखा मेरी काया तू सुन सिख हमारी निंदा चिंदा कर है पराई झूठी लाए तवारी वेल पराई जो हैं जियड़े कर है चोरी बुरियारी हंस चलिया तू पिछे रही है छुट्टड़ होए नारी तू काया रहे सुपंतर तुद क्या कर्म कमाया कर चोरी मैं जा किछ लिया ता मने भला पाया हलत न सोभा पलत न टोई अहला जन्म गवाया हाउ खरी दुहेली होई बाबा नानक मेरी बात न पुछे कोई रहाओ ताजी तुर्की सोयना रूपा कपड़ केरे पारा किस ही नाल न चले नानक चढ़े चढ़े पए गंवारा कूंजा मेवा मैं सब किछ चाखया एक अमृत नाम तुम्हारा दे नींव दिवाली उसारी पसमंदर की ढेरी संचय संचय न देई किस ही अंध जाने सब मेरी सोइन लंका सोइन माड़ी संपै किस है न केरी सुन मूर्ख मन अजाना होग तिसे का भाणा रहाओ साहो हमारा ठाकुर पारा हम तिसके वणजारे जियो पिंड सब रास तिसै की मारे आप जिवालै. A slightly longish passage compared to the previous two. But Guruji here is talking about the fleeting nature of life and our misperceptions about it, and how to correct these misperceptions. Amrit Kaiya Rahe Sukhali, Baji Eho Sansari. We live in the comfort that the body essence is immortal. In other words, we carry this idea around in our heads that we are going to live forever. But what we forget is that the world is really a passing show. Baji eh sansaro. And then what do? Through greed and acquisitiveness, lab, lob, we accumulate much falsehood, kood kamave. And therefore, we carry a heavy burden. Bahut uthave paro. So the question is, what is this accumulation of falsehood? And what is the burden? Essentially, it means that we've gone astray and we are picking things of no value. We are accumulating things that really have no intrinsic value to them. And we are hanging on to them, piling them, as though they are very valuable. So we have our heads mixed up, and these become a burden. And in this passage, we see and discern an inner conflict going on between the mind and the body. They're addressing each other because we perceive of ourselves as being a mind and a body without realizing that the body is simply an instrument that acts in accordance with the dictates of the mind. So essentially what is happening is that we are deluded by the seeming permanence of the world. We think the world is permanent, and the mind then goes astray, and it accumulates the burden of ignorance, kur. And this ignorance is the chronic myopia of ego consciousness, which identifies with the body. It confuses symbols for the real things. And so wisdom consists in seeing the world as it is, and not how we imagine it, or fantasize about it, or how we wish it to be. We should accept and understand the world for what it is. And therefore, the Guru says, Sorna Sorna Sikha Hamari. Listen and pay attention to my counsel. Sukrit Kita Rahe Si Mere Jiyade, Bahad Na Ave Vari. Very important. Sukrit, only virtues will bear fruit, my dear mind, and such an opportunity will not present itself over and again. Bahad na ave vari. Sukrit is the key word here, and rahsi, persistent. Sukrit means good deeds. It also means benevolence. It also means virtue, and it also means skill. And Guruji has woven this word so beautifully into this sentence. What he appears to be saying to us is, seize the opportunity of this human life. It isn't going to happen over and again. So seize the opportunity and live virtuously. What does living virtuously mean? It means performing one's calling, whatever that might be, skillfully. It means living skillfully and with benevolence towards others. Benevolence towards others implies sharing, it implies empathy. And virtue should not be confused as a fixed state to reach at, but rather a process of developing ourselves and our skills. He goes on, How tud akha meri kaya, tu sune sikh hamari, ninda chinda kare parai, chuthi laye tabari. I say to you, my body essence, and this is what is being said, slandering others in speech and thought, ninda chinda kare parai, and breaking of trust, chuthi laye tabari. And more than that, vel parai johe jiyade, coveting another's possession, my mind, and engaging in theft and evil deeds, kare chori buriari. This is what you're up to. And what is the consequence going to be? Hansa chalya tu piche rahiye, chuttad hoye nari. When the hans, when the soul, when the spirit departs from the body, you will be left behind like an abandoned woman. This is a pointer to the body. So to be virtuous, continuing on that thought, avoid slander, be trustworthy. Do not covet another's possession. And we saw already that a virtuous life calls for benevolence. And we covet the other because of misperception. Here's the root problem, misperception. The ego perceives the world as one of scarcity. And what we perceive becomes our reality. And this perception arises from our thought process. So we have to begin by unlearning the conditioning of the mind that views the universe as one of scarcity, because then it breeds selfish behavior. So we have to unlearn that. The world is not one of scarcity. It is one of abundance. Our problem is not scarcity. Our problem is egoic activity, selfishness. तू काया रहिए सुपंतर, तुद क्या कर्म कमाया? Question to the mind-body essence. You are living in a state of sleep, supant, dream. What deeds have you earned? What do you have to show for yourself? कर चोरी में जाग लिया ता मने पला पाया. I actually derived pleasure from stealing and consuming what didn't really belong to me. And in such, but there is a conflict, you see. We are witnessing a dialogue here that is an inner dialogue between the mind and itself, really. It's squabbling with itself. And in this squabbling, Guruji says, precious human life is lost. Halat na soba, palat na toi, ehla janam gavaya. You've lost it. And of course, that expression of loss is being articulated here, where the Guru says, How khari duheli hoi baba, nanak meri baat na puchhe koi. He's expressing this. I have become truly miserable. No one really cares for me. And what have I been doing? Taji turki soina rupa, kappad kere para. I've been accumulating stud farms, Turkish horses, gold, silver, and clothes aplenty. Taji turki soina rupa, kappad kere para. A lot. Kisi naal na challe nanak, jar jar pe gawara. The mind is being addressed as foolish. Gawara, kisi naal na challe, says Nanak, of foolish mind. None of this will travel with you. It must be shed off. Chad chad pai. Literally dusted off. I've tasted the delights of the world. Accept the sweet nectar of self-knowledge. Kuja meva, main sab kich chakhya, tasted everything. Ik amrit naam tumhara, self-knowledge. It might interest you to know that studies have actually shown that beyond a point, money and wealth can become detrimental to one's well-being. Of course, money is important up to a point. But beyond a certain point, it tends to make people less happy, less egalitarian, less empathetic. And the other thing is, how do you value money? That is important. How you spend your money is more important. If you put too much value on it, well, then your value system is all screwed up. In other words, you have to learn to see money for what it stands for. It's simply energy that you can exchange for other things. The other thing to remember is the short-livedness of life. De de neev, diwal usari, pasamandar ki teri. Pasamandar ki teri, pasamandar, a mansion of ash. The body turned out to be nothing more than a heap of ash. And here we are spending our entire lives trying to keep it afloat. Now, this is not suggesting that we shouldn't be taking care of our body, but the point is the obsession with tastes of the flesh is what is being pointed at. The excesses of sensory pleasure. It's beyond a point. So moderation of appetite is what the Guru is emphasizing here. He's saying, Sun Murakh man ajana, hog tise ka pana. Listen, my ignorant and foolish mind. What happens is the will. In other words, don't get this funny idea in your head that you are running the show. You're not. And the last verse is a metaphor. It says, Sao hamara thakur para, hum tiske vanjare, jio pind sab ras tisai ki, mare ape jival. The great master is our financier. We are traders, roving traders, vanjare. The being and the body and all resources belong to that Supreme Being. So, in this context, the Saho, a financier, provides money or goods, capital, and sends merchants out on business, and they report back with earned profits. Using that metaphor, Guruji says the Creator has sent us here with resources, the resource of the mind, the body, and we are expected to invest our resources wisely and earn the profit of virtue. On that note, until the next time, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.